Over the years, Bangladesh has become one of Asia's most remarkable and unexpected success stories. But this was not always the case. Once one of the poorest regions of Pakistan, Bangladesh remained an economic mess, molested by poverty and famine, and this happened for many decades. In fact, by 2006, the country seemed so hopeless that when it registered faster growth than Pakistan, it was dismissed as a fluke. But today, it's clear to the world that Bangladesh has become an economic miracle. While this sounds good, there are many things to consider that can put Bangladesh in a disadvantaged position. So the question is, how did Bangladesh overcome poverty? And what are the risks that could possibly take it back to its past sufferings? Before we go into that, do like this video and subscribe to the channel. Since 2016, Bangladesh's annual GDP growth has exceeded Pakistan's by roughly 2.5 percentage points per year, and in the future, its growth rate is expected to surpass other major economies in the region like India. Moreover, at 1.1% per year in 2018, Bangladesh's population growth was well below Pakistan's 2% rate, which means that its per capita income was growing faster than Pakistan's by approximately 3.3 percentage points per year. This made it easy for Bangladesh to overtake Pakistan in terms of per capita GDP in 2020. Even with a correction for purchasing power parity, this was remarkable. Until now, the whole world wonders what is responsible for Bangladesh's quiet transformation. Well, as with all large-scale historical phenomena, there can be no certain answers, only clues. Still, we can safely say that Bangladesh's economic transformation was driven in large part by social changes, starting with the empowerment of women. Due to efforts by the non-governmental organizations along with more recent work by the government, Bangladesh has made significant strides towards educating girls and giving women a greater voice, both in the household and in the public sphere. These efforts have gradually translated into improvements in children's health and education, such that Bangladesh's average life expectancy is now 72 years, compared to 68 years for Indians and 66 years for Pakistanis. The Bangladesh government also deserves credit for supporting grassroots initiatives in economic inclusion, the positive effects of which are visible in recently released data from the World Bank. Among Bangladeshi adults with bank accounts, 34.1% made digital transactions in 2017, compared to an average rate of 27.8% for South Asia. Moreover, only 10.4% of Bangladeshi bank accounts are dormant, compared to 48% of Indian bank accounts. Another partial explanation for Bangladesh's progress is the success of its garment manufacturing industry. That success is itself driven by a number of factors. One notable point is that the main garment firms in Bangladesh are large, especially compared to those in India, owing largely to different labour laws. Now, I'm not disputing that labour markets need regulation, but in India, the 1947 Industrial Disputes Act imposes heavy restrictions on firms' ability to contract workers and expand their labour force, ultimately doing more harm than good. The law was put forward a few months before the August 1947 independence of India and Pakistan from British imperial rule, meaning that both new countries inherited it. But Pakistan's military regime, which was impatient with trade unions from the region that would become Bangladesh, cancelled it in 1958. This means that Bangladesh was born without the law, giving it the opportunity to offer a better environment for manufacturing firms to achieve economies of scale and create a large number of jobs. Now, the question is whether Bangladesh's strong economic performance can be sustained. The truth is, as matters stand, the country's prospects are excellent, but there are risks that policymakers will need to take into account. For starters, when a country's economy takes off, corruption and inequality tend to increase, and can even hinder the growth of process if left unchecked. Bangladesh is no exception, but there is an even deeper threat posed by orthodox groups and religious fundamentalists who oppose Bangladesh's early investments in progressive social reforms. A reversal of those investments would cause a severe and prolonged economic setback. Now, this is not merely a passing concern. Vibrant economies have been derailed by overzealousness many times throughout history. For example, 1,000 years ago, the Arab caliphates ruled over regions of great economic dynamism, and cities like Damascus and Baghdad were global hubs of culture, research, and innovation. But that golden era ended when religious fundamentalism took root and began to spread. Pakistan's history tells a similar tale. In its early years, Pakistan's economy performed moderately well, with per capita income well above India's. And it was no coincidence that during this time, cities like Lahore were multicultural centers of art and literature. But then came military rule, restrictions on individual freedom, and Islamic fundamentalist groups building up walls against openness. By 2005, India surpassed Pakistan in terms of per capita income, and it has since taken the lead. Unfortunately, India was not left out. You see, India was once a vibrant, secular democracy that was growing at a remarkable annual rate of over 8% until a few years ago. Today, Hindu fundamentalist groups that discriminate against minorities and women, and that are working to destroy scientific research and higher education, are threatening its gains. In the same way, Portugal's heyday of global power in the 15th and 16th centuries passed quickly when Christian fanaticism became the empire's driving political force. As these examples demonstrate, Bangladesh needs to be vigilant about the risks posed by fundamentalism. Given Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's deep commitment to addressing these risks, there is reason to hope for success. In that case, Bangladesh will be on a path that would have been unimaginable just 2 decades ago, toward becoming an Asian success story. Bangladesh has a tradition of long-term planning, which has been included in its multi-annual development plans since the country's independence. These plans frame the government's ambitions and, since 1971, have guided the country's decision-making process. This means that to operationalize the Vision 2041, Bangladesh relies on 5-year plans, implemented through annual plans and budget associated with a host of specific policy actions. As an institution-rich country, 10 out of 42 ministries existing in Bangladesh have direct responsibilities when it comes to industry, trade, and investment. These ministries are planning, finance, commerce, industry, agriculture, fisheries and livestock, post, telecommunication and ICT, shipping, textiles and jute, science, technology, and innovation and power and energy. In addition to these ministries, 7 operational agencies and bodies play a crucial role in the economic transformation strategy of the country and oversee the implementation of multiple, often overlapping policies, including the Bangladesh Industrial Policy 2022, the Bangladesh Investment Promotion Scheme, and the Bangladesh Economic Recovery and Reform Programme. Interestingly, international partners have a long history of cooperation with Bangladesh and have been active since its independence. For instance, Bangladesh remains today the 3rd biggest recipient of official development assistance, after Syria and Egypt, and while development cooperation efforts focused on poverty alleviation, rural development and disaster preparedness in the past, currently international partners are increasingly active in supporting Bangladesh's economic transformation. Overall, around 32% of total official development assistance to Bangladesh between 2018 and 2021, which rounds up to USD $8.9 billion, focused on economic transformation programs, making Bangladesh one of the countries where official development assistance focuses the most on economic transformation. The Japan International Cooperation Agency is also involved in building one of the country's flagship special economic zones, and in 2 major transport projects, including the Dhaka Mass Rapid Transit System and the expansion of the Capital International Airport. Other key players include the World Bank, which has been active in Bangladesh since its independence, and which accounts today for 22% of official development assistance focused on economic transformation, followed by the Asia Development Bank, active in the country with 7% of the overall support for economic transformation. Yet, in spite of the pleasant things happening in the country, it still needs to make some adjustments. For example, a countrywide road-rail waterway blockade imposed by the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which is the main opposition, and its allies, has disrupted the supply chains and significantly pushed up the cost of transport, because only a fraction of the trucks and buses have been on the road during the shutdown. This political standoff is no doubt causing serious concerns for the South Asian economy, which has already been squeezed by the global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine. Now the country is experiencing a shrinking foreign currency reserve and strong inflationary pressures that have pushed the government to seek a $4.7 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund in 2023. This escalating economic problem can also be attributed to an oligarchy of political elites who have control over banking, bureaucracy, and business. For example, corruption in the country's banking sector caused a loss of $90 million in the 2016-2017 fiscal year. Also, the global financial integrity data indicates that between 2008 and 2017, Bangladesh lost a staggering $7.53 billion, or 17.95% of its international trade, per year on average, to trade misinvoicing, where companies declared a lower value for their imports and exports to pay lower taxes. This oligarchy, which has been accused of corruption and money laundering, has frustrated reforms that threaten their economic interests. Even if the reforms had the potential of improving the country's economy, which this means in essence is that without a political settlement that restores genuine democracy by dislodging entrenched oligarchic networks, meaningful economic reforms are unlikely to be undertaken or implemented effectively. Meanwhile, opposition leaders and activists say that the road, rail, waterway blockades are a part of their quest to break up this oligarchy and restore democracy in Bangladesh, because in the last 15, counting from 2023, the government and its beneficiaries have permitted corruption. This permissiveness is what has affected the whole economy. Yes, Bangladesh's policymakers agree that blockades can be harmful to the economy, yet the people would have to bear with it as a temporary suffering, because if they don't fight to restore democracy now, the economy as well as the whole country will be in deep trouble, worse than anything ever seen. These all show that Bangladesh is trying its best to keep its wealth in spite of its obvious shortcomings. But do you think it has what it takes to stay afloat? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do give us a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Where money matters, see you on the next one.